No one else knew how to latch the door properly from the outside, and it was open, letting in the cold. The night brought with it almost 2 feet of snow, which was good. He could track on frozen soil, but not well and not quickly. The footprints led towards the river. If he couldn't catch up by then, most of what he'd collected and stored all spring and summer would vanish, not the least of which being his food. The previous night's rapidly dropping temperature and approaching storm meant that Sam, the man who knocked on the door while Stephen was eating dinner, would scarcely have survived the night out in the elements. Stephen scolded himself for letting compassion outweigh his instincts. He grabbed his pack and the pistol he shared the bed with, and he left. Large snowflakes danced almost weightlessly into the footprints in front of him. The tracks themselves were closer together now than they were by the cabin. Sam was slowing. Either through fatigue or relaxation, he slowed. Stephen did not. He scanned the landscape again. It was quiet. Then he saw a silhouette behind the trees. The duffel on Sam's back was full, unlike the last time Stephen saw it. The man moved deftly, even with a short, heavy stride. Stephen sped up, keeping the trees between them so that he could steal a glimpse every few steps without being seen. And when he got close enough, he pointed his revolver to the sky and fired. Sam froze where he stood in the snow. He leveled the gun to the center of Sam's pack as he continued to close the gap between them. After the last of the birds cleared the area, the only sound was the crunch of snow beneath Stephen's feet. "I don't miss," Stephen threatened. "I don't believe you would," Sam replied. Sam shuffled the bag off his shoulders and let the rifle sink into the snow next to him. "Kick those snowshoes off and step back some. You got a boat over there?" Stephen asked. Sam nodded as he unlaced and stepped thigh-deep into the snow. He lifted his boots and plunged them back into the snow 4 more times, and then turned to face Stephen, who still had his revolver aimed center mass. "Take it down the river and go left at the fork," Stephen gestured with his other hand as he spoke. "You'll hit the North Bend trading post after dark. You can figure things out from there." With a busted canoe and my good intentions, Sam looked up at the gray clouds past the pine branches above him, shaking his head from one side to the other. "I'd have given you enough to carry you through if you'd asked for it. Thing is, I need more than your charity, Stephen. Enough isn't what I'm looking for, and I don't have the best of luck, as you may have noticed. And now you don't have luck or charity. If I see you again, you won't have a warning shot either. Now get moving." Sam maintained eye contact with Stephen until he cocked the hammer of the gun. Sam waited another beat, and then turned deliberately and began trudging through the snow. Stephen let out the breath he didn't know he was holding, and watched as Sam disappeared past the trees. He hoisted the duffel onto his shoulders and grabbed the rifle. Walking away, he saw the barren forest in front of him. The deers and rabbits were gone. The birds that he scared away would soon migrate. It was shaping up to be a tough winter in a place where the summer was no picnic. No one could survive alone without shelter and supplies. He paused for a breath and then kept going. His conscience was gnawing at him. He stopped, but the snow crunching behind him didn't. When he turned, Sam was in the air with a blade protruding from the bottom of his fist. With his left hand, he threw snow into Stephen's face. The cold hit his eyes hard and he couldn't see, but instinctually he threw his hands up and fell to the side to avoid being tackled underneath Sam. When they landed, Sam pinned him with an arm and a leg, but most of his body was free. The knife pressed close to Stephen's throat. As he grabbed the revolver, the point of the blade touched his skin. A shiver like nothing he felt before shook him inside, and every single hair on his body stood straight up. He groaned, trying to push the steel away from him, and brought the gun up under Sam's elbow. Stephen pulled the trigger, and Sam spun off of him and hit the ground. Sam howled. He bucked and coughed out short cries of pain. He rolled from his back to his left side to his back again. Blood started to melt the snow underneath the right side of his ribs. Stephen cut the barrel trained as he stood up, but saw plainly that the fight was over. "My daddy always said, never bring a snowball to a gunfight." Sam winced with every inhale and groaned on each exhale. "I was going to help you," Stephen said quietly, almost to himself. Sam gasped, then inhaled slowly to control the movement of his ribs. It might have been a laugh if the breathing wasn't so obviously agonizing. "You sure did. Taught me that lesson a sight quicker than the old man could have. I don't think I'll make that mistake twice." Sam Sam smiled through a grimace as more snow beneath him turned red. Then the smile faded. Stephen took some gauze from his pack and began bandaging. Thinking's never been my strong suit. I'm more of a gambling man, but that might not be my forte neither. Stephen tried to stop the bleeding and get him to the canoe. As Stephen moved him, Sam screamed and promptly passed out. By the time they were floating downriver, the snow was coming down heavily. Soon the footprints behind them would disappear entirely. Throughout the hours they drifted downstream, Stephen kept as much pressure on the wound as possible while steering the boat and keeping it from leaning and letting water in. Sam's breathing was shallow, and he didn't seem lucid the few times his eyes fluttered open before closing tight again. If the doctor wasn't at the trading post, he wouldn't live through the night. If the doctor was at the trading post, he still might not live through the night. The part that bothered Stephen the most was that it bothered him at all. It was clearly self-defense, but if Sam did die, he would be the first person Stephen ever killed. And still. He swallowed the anger, the remorse. All of it could wait until they reached home. He looked up and saw all the snowflakes falling into the water where they would disintegrate and be gone forever. The thought blossomed that no one else would ever notice their disappearance, and in the same way no one would notice or care that this scavenging man ceased to be. He would become part of the earth, indistinguishable from any hill or valley. No visible sign would prove his existence, but if Stephen could